Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. It's another busy day. Welcome in. Appreciate you spending part of your day with us. The House of Representatives yesterday voted along bipartisan lines to defeat a lone progressive lawmaker's bid to impeach President Donald Trump, with 128 Democrats joining the House GOP majority. We have the details of this circus, basically. It was a circus. Former NBC News host Chuck Todd wondered on his podcast if the media were sold a 40-year bill of goods about former President Joe Biden being a family man. This was during a discussion about Biden's decision to run for re-election with his guest Jake Tapper. And in a major victory against child sex trafficking, Florida authorities announced that 60 missing children were recovered as part of their Operation Dragen Eye, a sweeping multi-agency crackdown led by the U.S. Marshal's Office in Florida. And the race to be South Carolina's next governor has officially begun, with 2 GOP candidates making it official this week. We got the details on that as well.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
You're not going to believe what went down on the House floor yesterday. This is the U.S. House of Representatives, okay? Democrats, even the so-called resistance heroes, just buried an impeachment resolution against President Donald Trump. Now, you'd think that after the strikes on Iran, after the firestorm from the far-left squad, that they'd finally pull the trigger on what they've been dreaming about since 2016, impeaching Donald Trump. But nope, they blinked again. The House of Representatives voted 344 to 79 to table a resolution to impeach President Donald Trump, killing it before it even got a chance to breathe. So what exactly does this mean? It means they didn't have the guts to vote on it directly. After all the talk, after all the rhetoric, the Democrats just threw it in the shredder. Now, that's what they should have done. It was the right choice. But I guess I'm just a little surprised with all the talk in these past few days particularly about what a bad decision Donald Trump made in getting us involved in the conflict between Israel and Iran. So the leading the charge, of course, was none other than Representative Al Green of Texas. You remember the guy, loudmouth. The guy who got booted from Trump's State of the Union for yelling over the president like a TikTok protester in church. It was described by one podcaster. A real class act. This time, Mr. Green's meltdown was over Trump's decisive strikes on Iran this past weekend. Strikes that took out 3 of Iran's most critical nuclear sites, the kind that saves lives, that shows strength, that ends wars before they even begin. That kind of strike. But to Al Green, that was an impeachable offense. So on the floor of the House, Representative Green said this, and let me read from his statement. I did not come to Congress to be a bystander while President abuses power. President Trump's unauthorized bombing of Iran constitutes a de facto declaration of war. Well, someone needs to remind Mr. Green that we have a Constitution. And it makes the president the commander-in-chief, not a second-string backbencher from Houston. Hint, hint. And let's not forget, this isn't Green's first rodeo. He threatened to impeach Trump before, and every time he's tried, it's been a big flop. So here's the kicker. Guess who joined Republicans to crush this effort, to end Al Green's resolution before it even got off to a start? Every single member of House Democrat leadership. Who is that? Well, let's talk about Hakeem Jeffries, who apparently is busy auditioning for Chuck Schumer's job. That's Catherine Clark, who's supposed to be whipping votes, not whispering excuses. And then there's Pete Aguilar, chairman of the House Democrat Caucus, who couldn't back away from this resolution fast enough. All of them voted with Republicans to stop the impeachment push before it ever really started. And you know what? Let's give credit where it's due. They know the American people aren't buying what the squad's selling anymore. This whole impeachment tantrum is political suicide, and let's be honest, they had enough sense to recognize that. So, let's talk about the numbers. Only 79 Democrats voted to move the resolution forward. That's 79 out of 212. The rest, 128 Democrats, joined the GOP to kill the resolution. You hear that, AOC? You lost again. And speaking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she went full scorched earth this week, calling for Trump's impeachment over Iran, which is rich coming from someone who can't even define what the Department of Energy does. When is New York going to send her back to bartending? So what does President Trump think about all this, about all the drama? Well, he posted on Truth Social, as you can imagine. He wrote, "She better start worrying about her own primary because she thinks about beating our great Palestinian senator crying Chuck Schumer. Go ahead and try impeaching me. Make my day." Now, that's vintage Donald Trump. But here's what this really shows and why this matters. This whole impeachment stunt, it really exposed the civil war that the left has within their own party, doesn't it? You've got the squad and the socialists trying to burn down the House literally. And then you got the leadership trying to keep the Democrat Party from imploding because they want to win back their majority next year. And they understand that the American people, we're over this. We're tired of their constant bickering. They're constantly attacking our president. They understand that Donald Trump won by a landslide, not only in the Electoral College, but in the popular vote last year, and that means something, and that hasn't changed. So why are they panicking? Well, look, Donald Trump's not running for re-election. He's already in office. He's already sitting in the Oval Office. His Iran strike was surgical. His ceasefire deal, yes, maybe a little fragile, but it's real, and I think it's going to hold. The markets loved it. The markets rallied. And for once, the Middle East, maybe, just maybe, is on the brink of peace instead of continuous war. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing if after all of the drama that we have witnessed in the Middle East, that Donald Trump comes through within, 6 months of being back in the Oval Office, and he brings peace to the Middle East? How amazing would that be? And that's why the left's melting down, because they can't stand the idea that Trump's foreign policy is actually working. They wanted the chaos, and instead, they got calm. Even President Putin called Trump to offer help. Trump told him flat out, no, I don't need your help. But still, to think that the world is recognizing our military might, that's pretty amazing. That's big. The Democrats know it, and they know that it's going to be hard to win next year with these types of wins on Donald Trump's side. So yes, They're in a full-blown panic. They're in a full-blown meltdown, and you've got these dummies like AOC, like Al Green, who doesn't have a clue of what it's going to take for them to win again next year, and they're just out here, off the cuff, coming up with this stuff because of their hatred of the president. AOC hates Donald Trump. She doesn't care what he does, how successful he is for our country, by the way. She doesn't care because she wants him to fail. She wants him to go down in flames, even if it means that it hurts our country. Because in the end, AOC doesn't love our country. She loves being in the headlines. She loves what it means to her. She is so egotistical, she is so self-absorbed that all she wants is to win the headlines, to be on CNN at night, and she'll do whatever she has to do, even if it means tearing down the presidency to accomplish that. The American people, though, we're not buying it anymore.
Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com.
It was big news when President Donald Trump announced on Truth Social that he had brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. You may have gotten up, though, and thought, well, what happened? I thought we had a ceasefire, because there were some missiles fired after the agreement was agreed upon, but before it was to take effect. But this did not make President Donald Trump a happy camper. So let's look at one of the most explosive 24 hours in global politics and foreign policy and American leadership in recent memory. President Trump, love him or hate him, just pulled the emergency brake on World War III. You agree with that? And that's not an exaggeration, I don't think. So here's what we're looking at. President Trump took to true social media to announce that he had brokered the ceasefire. Two countries, Israel and Iran, have spent the last 2 weeks hurling missiles, assassinating commanders, dragging the world to the edge of a major war. His post read this: Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. That was the message. Just that simple. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. But the problem happened within hours. Missiles were still flying. Iran launched strikes. Israel retaliated. And President Trump, he was just downright furious. Just minutes before boarding Marine One en route to a NATO summit, President Trump unleashed a verbal grenade, pun intended. Speaking to reporters on the South Lawn, he said, and I quote, "We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the F they're doing." Here's the president.
Violated, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
That was a very frustrated Donald Trump. And don't you know he would love to have just been in the same room with Netanyahu and Iranian officials, with the ruler, just to slap their hands? I mean, this all started and was made possible when, under Trump's direction, we dropped bombs on 3 of Iran's nuclear sites, brought them to their knees. I mean, that was just a couple of days ago, and in retaliation, Iran launched missiles, including one that slammed into a residential building in Beersheba, Israel, killing 4 people, including 2 children. Now, it got a little crazier, too, during all that, because we have now learned that supposedly Russian President Putin called Trump and offered to help with Iran. We're told that President Trump's response, no, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you. Meanwhile, you had Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with his own ideas. Despite Trump's warning not to escalate further, Israel still launched a, quote, symbolic strike on a radar installation north of Tehran. Why? Because according to Netanyahu's office, Iran violated the ceasefire first. It was kind of like, well, he did it first, so I'm gonna retaliate. In Beersheba, Israeli emergency services pulled bodies from rubble. In Tehran, Iranian hospitals are overwhelmed, we're told. And in the skies above Washington, D.C., NORAD just conducted a full military readiness drill, F-16s in formation, simulating hijacks and airspace violations. We are on high alert, folks. We have to be vigilant because we don't know what's coming. We have no idea what possible sleeper cells are here. I mentioned to you on Sunrise, Carolina this morning about the problem of potential sleeper cells. According to reports, over 1,500 Iranians were able to come into the country under Joe Biden's watch who potentially could be setting up or have already set up sleeper cells. They could be here to attack in a situation like this. Now, I don't want to scare you. I'm just saying be careful, be vigilant. Because, yes, there's a ceasefire, but there's a long way to go before all of this is settled. So what happens next? Both the House and the Senate are getting briefed today, we're told. Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate Leader John Thune, and others are already looped in, but expected maybe some fireworks today behind doors. Because, as you know, the Democrats are still upset. Even though this has had a pretty good turnout from the standpoint that in 12 days it seems to be over, the Democrats still believe that Donald Trump should have asked permission. Democrats are still wanting to impeach him. And let's not kid ourselves. This isn't just foreign policy here, folks. It's election season foreign policy. And everyone is thinking about 2026 midterm elections, and they're thinking about every move that Donald Trump makes on the global stage is being scrutinized, not just by Tehran, not just by Tel Aviv, but by voters in Michigan, Georgia, Arizona, the Democrat Party, all the woke leftists. They're all watching him very closely. And here's the kicker. While the global elite were busy doubting the ceasefire, European stock market surged. The DAX in Germany up 1.9%. The FTSE 100 in the UK up 0.6%. So what does this mean? You want me to translate this for you? Wall Street believes Trump stopped the war and they're betting big on peace. It's just as simple as that. Meanwhile, in the real world, people on both sides in Tel Aviv and Tehran are saying the same thing. It's over. It never should have started. Really, yeah. Y'all should have thought about that before we started launching missiles. But here's the real danger. Iran's elite commanders were killed. Evin Prison in Tehran, the same facility that holds political dissidents, was bombed during visiting hours, and new reports say a nuclear scientist was assassinated in northern Iran. Ceasefire or not, this war's embers are still burning. Trump says he doesn't want regime change in Iran. He just wants calm. And that's, I think, what we all want. That's kind of a change in tone because not long ago, President Trump hinted that the Iranian people deserve better leadership. But let's be real. Regime change in Iran is not off the table because the people of Iran could see this as their opportunity to take action and to make some change. The big news is it does appear that we're headed for peace. This is the best news that we could have gotten, and in just 12 days with no loss of American life. Former President Joe Biden was on the hot seat yesterday, and by two very unlikely sources. I mean, what happened to Chuck Todd and Joe Biden? The former NBC News host wondered on his podcast if the media had been sold a 40-year bill of goods about former President Joe Biden being a family man. This was during a discussion about Biden, about his decision to run for re-election. Todd talked about this during his podcast. It's called the Chuck Toddcast, and was first reported by the Daily Caller. And he talked with his guest, Jake Tapper, who seemed to question Joe Biden's integrity.
So for me, the original sin was running in the first place.
Oh, well, yes, I've heard you talk about this because
his family was in crisis.
Right, because his daughter and his son were addicted to drugs.
I followed that Hunter Biden trial soup to nuts. I read every single transcript. I read all of the testimony. I cannot believe to this day, Jake, that Hunter Biden, that Joe Biden did this to his kids.
So somebody close to the family
can't believe that he did it.
Somebody close to the family told us, and this is in the book, that everybody knows, some of the family aphorisms like, my word is a Biden, or, et cetera, et cetera. A lesser known Biden family saying is don't call a fat person fat. And by that, they mean it's not about politeness. It's about hiding truths, not acknowledging truths. And this person close to the family suggested that there are lots of truths that the family did not want to face up to. One, Bo is dying. Mm-hmm. Two, Hunter is addicted to drugs. Three, Joe Biden cares about his family more than he cares about anything else. Mm-hmm. And those three are not true. This person close to the family said. And that's when you talk about his running in 2020, I think that comes to bear because obviously he was putting his ambition and, if you want to be charitable, his hopes to save the country from Trumpism or whatever, obviously he was putting that above what was going on with his family and his two children and their struggles.
Look, I mean, you and I covered, for most of our professional lives, the story of Joe Biden was this guy cared about his family so much he commuted home every night from Washington.
Now, by the way,
what else you could say is this man was so ambitious that after his family went through that tragedy, he commuted every day to work. Right. Like it's the same story.
He had his narrative. His sister help raise his boys.
I sit here, I look at this and I think, were we sold a 40-year bill of goods?
You know what's so funny about this is, yes, the entire nation was sold a 40-year bill of goods, but it's taken these two supposedly intellectual men. They're always the smartest guys in the room. It's taken them this long to figure it out. That's what is so hilarious to hear Chuck Todd and Jake Tapper turning on Joe Biden. Todd told Tapper, so for me, the original sin was running in the first place because Joe Biden's family was in crisis. He said, I followed that Hunter Biden trial soup to nuts. The CNN host said a person close to the Biden family had told him there were a lot of truths the family did not want to face up to.
Well, there is this, and this is in the book, there is this legend of Joe Biden. And some of it is based in reality and some of it is based in myth. And the legend is...
And Biden's not the first president where there's been myth. I mean, my God, in fact, most presidential resumes have some myth in them. All of them. We could sit here and do it. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you could talk about the Obama's marriage because, I mean, she never wanted him to run for president, period.
No.
And she's been pretty honest and open about that. Right.
Yes, that memoir, I mean, yeah. I mean, it was pretty clear. Yeah.
The legend, and this is one of the things that people love about Joe Biden is this idea that no matter what life throws at him, he gets up off the floor and gets back to work. Get up, he says. His dad used to say, get up. And
he always seemed to be find a way to be optimistic. Yeah.
Debilitating stutter, horrible car crash that killed his wife and daughter, 2 brain aneurysms, and on and on and on. That same quality, however, is what paved the way to this bad decision. This idea that I'm Joe Biden and I cannot be defeated by age. I cannot be defeated by whatever is going on with my mind and my body right now. I will persevere. And it's not just a mythology for some people in the family and close to the family. It's a theology. And like any religion, skepticism is not permitted.
And that's why the nation got stuck with Joe Biden for 4 years, because nobody questioned him. Not Chuck Todd, not Jake Tapper. In fact, they paved the way for Joe Biden to con the nation. So for these two guys to be sitting there now and complaining about a 40-year bill of goods that Joe Biden sold, look, shame on them. They allowed it to happen. Both of these men at the time had large microphones in which they could have spread the word, could have questioned Joe Biden, could have alerted the nation on their concerns now. But it wasn't the thing to do then. They just went along to get along with their media buddies. You know, Chuck Todd, after leaving NBC, after being forced out of NBC, he has been critical of Joe Biden since back in the early part of the spring. Now, I think he's probably just trying to get headlines. He's wanting us to be talking about what Chuck Todd thinks of Joe Biden now. He criticized the notion that Biden is a family man, and he's argued that he shouldn't have run for president at all. But again, where was Chuck Todd back last year in the middle of the campaign when Joe Biden was still a candidate? He said at one point, quote, "I completely got so angry at Joe Biden, the man, when I read the transcript of the Hunter Biden trial, and when I realized that not one, not two, but 3 Biden children, and I count Bo's widow," he said, "were all dealing with drug problems in 2018. And Joe Biden said, now's a perfect time to run for president because who cares about our family?" And look, that's Joe Biden. That's the Joe Biden you and I know. But that's the Joe Biden none of them wanted to admit to. And there you heard Todd arguing about the mythology of the Biden family, of Joe Biden caring so much about his family. They reached out, or actually Fox News reached out to the Biden family, to Joe Biden, for a comment. And, of course, they're not talking. They have no comment. But again, doesn't it just kind of make you a little bit angry to hear these two guys going after Joe Biden now, knowing that they could have saved the country from the inflation that we experienced, the high cost of food right now that went up during Joe Biden's administration, that, let's face it, is probably never going to come back down to pre-COVID prices? They helped allow that. They helped allow so many things. Millions and millions of illegals. Think about if they had not been supportive of Joe Biden, and Joe Biden had not won that fluke of an election in 2020, and Donald Trump had been able to finish building the wall. Think about, we wouldn't have had the millions and millions of illegals we have in our country now that now we're going to have to pay to get rid of. Now we're going to have to pay to send back. It just makes me so angry at times. Well, maybe angry shouldn't be, maybe that's not a good way to describe it. It just frustrates me that these guys were supposedly leaders in the media, watchdogs, and they allowed this to happen. They sat back and allowed Joe Biden to, yes, sell us a bill of goods. Because many of us knew Joe Biden wasn't who Joe Biden wanted us to think he was. Joe Biden was a politician. Joe Biden always put Joe Biden first. Yeah, he wanted to appear to be the young boy from Scranton, Pennsylvania, the hardworking blue-collar. That Joe Biden disappeared 40 years ago. That Joe Biden disappeared when, as a pretty young man, was elected to the U.S. Senate and was able to get a taste of the power that comes with being a United States senator. And when you sit in the U.S. Senate for 40 years like Joe Biden did, you don't look out for the people. You look out for yourself. That's the only way you keep getting reelected. And that's how Joe Biden maintained his power. And that's how he ended up in the Oval Office. Because the Chuck Todds of the world and the Jake Tappers of the world never questioned him. They gave him a pass, a free pass to do whatever he wanted to. And you know what? It's not going to change. They'll continue to give the Democrats, the left, a free pass.
Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com.
Two Republicans made it official yesterday. They'll be seeking the governor's mansion in South Carolina. As you know, Governor Henry McMaster cannot seek another term, and 2026 is going to be a busy time for the governor's mansion. We'll talk about that in just a minute. First, I ran out of time yesterday before I had a chance to talk with you about a couple of pretty significant stories. First, a federal judge in Tennessee rejected the government's motion to detain Kilmar Abrigo Garcia. He's the Salvadorian national accused of operating a human smuggling ring. He awaits trial. Despite the ruling, though, Mr. Garcia will not be released into the community, as U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement plans to detain him on civil immigration charges immediately upon any criminal release. U.S. Magistrate Judge Barbara Holmes issued the decision over the weekend, finding that the government had not met the legal threshold required under the Bail Reform Act to justify pretrial detention. The court concluded that the case does not involve a minor in a way that warrants mandatory detention, and said the government had failed to prove that Garcia poses a danger to the community or is a flight risk beyond civil immigration processes. Now, this is just another example of wasting time, because as soon as he is released, ICE is going to be able to pick him up because he's still here illegally. Nothing's going to erase that. These judges just keep continuing to waste time, waste resources to protect these people. So that's one thing. But secondly, in a major victory against child sex trafficking in Florida, authorities announced that 60 critically missing children had been recovered as part of Florida's Operation Dragen Eye. This was a sweeping multi-agency crackdown. It was led by U.S. Marshal's Office for the Central District of Florida, with the cooperation, of course, of Florida state officials and local officials. The operation, it was supported by the Florida Attorney General's Office. It was had 20 other law enforcement agencies involved. Just kind of shows you that local, state, and federal law enforcement can work together and want to work together. This led to 8 arrests and an ongoing investigation into human trafficking, child endangerment, and drug-related crimes. The Attorney General's Office released a statement saying the real heroes behind this operation are the law enforcement officers who built and executed this mission. The Attorney General said, as your Attorney General and the father of 3 young kids, protecting children is my top priority. If you victimize children, you're going to prison. End of story. So they recovered children aged 9 to 17. Think about that. 9-year-olds. They were found in dangerous conditions. Some were pregnant, one reportedly carrying the child of her trafficker. Each child was immediately provided with medical evaluations and long-term psychological support. Now, how does that look? How do you provide psychological support to kids who probably endured some very horrific circumstances? The U.S. Marshal, William Berger, said this operation didn't just rescue children, it gave them a shot at recovery. We ensured they were debriefed and given care to break the cycle of victimization. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement played a pivotal role. 60 kids saved. That number sends a message. Florida is not a safe ground for traffickers, Commissioner Mark Glass said. Operation Dragen Eye underscores Florida's standing as one of the top 3 states for human trafficking cases. In 2024, Florida received more than 1,830 alerts, leading to the identification of 1,874 victims, many minors exploited through manipulation and online platforms. The operation is part of a broader statewide push, according to officials, that will strengthen anti-trafficking laws. Governor Ron DeSantis has allocated $4.9 million to expand emergency shelter space and $900,000 in grants to the agencies involved. New legislation also increases penalties for traffickers and mandates training for frontline workers in schools, hotels, and hospitals. Again, just an example of how state, local, federal officials can work together when they all have the same common theme of cracking down on trafficking. And back to this Garcia guy from El Salvador, we have body cam footage of him with other people in his car. He obviously was trafficking. Now, there's no evidence in that load of people that there were any young people, any children, but who knows what the guy's capable of. And yet, these rogue judges continue to try to protect him. Democrat legislators, U.S. House members, U.S. senators went to El Salvador to talk with him. They're still trying to protect him. That's just how nuts these people are. Moving on. 2 Republicans announced that they will be running for governor in South Carolina. Josh Kimball, state senator, a frequent guest of this show. Alan Wilson, our longtime attorney general, also a guest on this show. Both formally announced their bids on what will promise to be probably a very crowded field for the governor's mansion in 2026. Hours before Attorney General Wilson was scheduled to make his formal announcement at an event in his home county of Lexington, Senator Kimball made his campaign official in an email blast. Senator Kimball represents that Boiling Springs area, Spartanburg County. He followed up with a launch celebration. The pair of announcements, again, comes a little more than a year ahead of what is probably going to be a crowded field in the GOP primary in a state where Republicans occupy all state offices. 6 or 7 U.S. House seats by Republicans. The lone Democrat in the U.S. House delegation, James Clyburn, of course. We have a supermajority in both chambers of the legislature. It's been almost 20 years since a Democrat won any statewide office in South Carolina. Jim Rex narrowly won his bid in 2006 to become state superintendent of education. Of course, now we have Ellen Weaver, who is our state superintendent of education. Filing for the primaries, which will take place in June 2026, is 9 months away. But there are at least 4 others who apparently will probably run in the primary as well. Of course, U.S. Representative Nancy Mace is probably at the top of the list as far as the candidate who has said that she's probably going to run. She's the first congressional district representative in the U.S. House. She's been bashing her potential gubernatorial opponents for months, and with a bullseye on Attorney General Alan Wilson. Of course, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evatt, who you hear on this show a lot as well, is expected to make a decision within the next month or so, she says. And you may recall that former state treasurer and reality TV star Thomas Ravenel announced that he was running back in February but very quickly got out of the race within less than a week later. State Senator Sean Bennett is said to be weighing a possible run as well. He is a Republican from Summerville. He told the South Carolina Daily Gazette he intends to evaluate the field of candidates to see if the race needs me or if it doesn't need me. And then, of course, possibly U.S. Representative Ralph Norman has told reporters he'll make an announcement July 27th. We shall see. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.